Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, in November, by 65%, voters in Florida approved Amendment 4, restoring the voting rights to the formerly incarcerated. What did I tell you? And Republicans were not going to accept this lying down. Today, in Florida, what happened? A House committee voted along party lines saying that in order for people to get the right to vote, they would have to pay back any fines they might have. Now, let me remind you, the amendment, as written, said nothing about that. But the Republicans do not want upwards of 1.4 million people having their right to vote restored. Did you actually think that they were going to take this lying down? Did you actually think that they were going to have that many people get on the voting rolls to impact local as well as the 2020 election? Oh, no. Joining us right now is Desmond Meade and his wife, Sheena Meade. Of course, both of them led the effort to pass this amendment forward with the coalition there in Florida. Desmond and Sheena, we've had you on the show, and I knew this day was coming. I knew Republicans were not going to say, okay, sure, y'all passed it. This is no different than what happened in Utah, where the voters there said to expand Medicaid. Republicans said, no, we're going to change that. Or I think it was in Wyoming, where the voters passed a major ethics bill. Republicans said, nah, we're going to say to hell with you guys. I mean, they are in essence saying to you, to the folks who voted, what y'all voted for is irrelevant. We're going to control this show.
So, Roland, I hate to say, right, that you told us so, but, you know, I do still think that that is a blanket statement. I am not totally convinced that all conservative politicians is going to seek to thwart it. Right now, what we're looking at is just a handful of folks who is really seeking to expand what the definition of completion of a sentence is, you know, as well as include other agencies in determining whether or not people like me would be able to register to vote. But I can tell you this, in spite of what they're doing, we have thousands of returning citizens who have already registered to vote and participated in elections. Today, there's an election in Jacksonville, Florida, in which many returning citizens are turning out to vote for their sheriffs and for their mayors. We just had one in Tampa, and they're going to have a runoff, I believe, next month for the mayoral candidates. And so we're still pressing forward. We believe in people over politics, and we do believe that in the end we will prevail.
But Sheena, the issue here is that, again, what they are doing, they are trying to suggest that, and they're actually using your language against you by saying that when this went before the Supreme Court, lawyers for your coalition said, well, completing a sentence could mean paying off all of your fines. So what they want to be able to say is that you have to be able to pay all these fines off, even if they were not related to your actual case. This is just different than what the language said.
Yes. So, yeah, so the testimony that they're using by attorneys, and they're being real slick about it, because at the time of the oral arguments, that was no definite statement. At the end of the day, what we did know was that there is a very clear standard in the state of Florida that has been established under the leadership of Governor Charlie Crist, Governor Rick Scott, Governor Jeb Bush, Governor Lawton Childs. And it has been consistent throughout all of those administrations that completion of a sentence means that you have completed all terms of incarceration, you have completed all terms of supervision, and that you've paid restitution. And just to make sure that there was a clear distinction, the Office of Offender Review went further on to explain that we should not, and I repeat, not consider court costs, fines, fees, costs of supervision, and any other of these monetary obligations unless judge specifically ordered those fees to be paid as restitution. And in cases where they're not, it should not be considered. That's a very clear, bright line that was drawn over several administrations, and mind you, several conservative administrations. And that's the line that we're taking today. That's the line that we're telling our elected officials. Why even mess with it? You shouldn't be tinkering it with it. This Amendment 4 was about a grassroots movement. We intentionally refuse to have any politicians involved, because anytime politics get involved, anytime partisanship get involved, the people are the one that suffer. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, Sheena, I'm reading this Tampa Times story. Neil Volz, political director for the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, which advocated for Amendment 4, said after that mistakes were made before the Supreme Court. And so it seems that what these Republicans are doing, if they're trying to use what was stated in before the Supreme Court against you with this. And again, for the folks who don't understand, what this measure would do, it would require folks to pay back all court fees and costs, even, according to this story here, even if those costs are not handed down by a judge as part of the person's sentence. Democrats are saying this is a poll tax. Sheena?
Yeah, so Roland, well, thanks for having us on the show, and you are the prophet, and so I will give you that, but this is my approach. I'm a little bit more radical than Desmond. So my answer to all this, I'm an organizer, and Amendment 4 won in every state house district in the state, including conservative seats. 5 million people voted yes on 4 who were not convicted felons. If they want to play, we could play. In 2020, they will not have a seat. So my approach is this. We have 1.4 million people who have the right to vote. The people have spoken. The language is self-executing. They should leave it alone. And we are organizing. We're actually going to host a large conference call for our allies and our returning citizens. We recently had Advocacy Day, which you covered, taking up to 500 returning citizens, new voters, to Tallahassee, let them know that we're not playing with you. Don't play with this amendment. Don't play with the people's movement. And if you want to play, we have 5 million people behind us that's willing to take your behind out of office.
And I think, go ahead.
Well, I need to add this, right? Because you mentioned about them looking at the Supreme Court oral arguments. Well, they can't have their cake and eat it too.
Oh, they'll try. They'll try.
Those same oral arguments, and in the decision, a unanimous decision, that same Supreme Court said that our language was clear and unambiguous, right? And so for them to now come back and say that there is no clarity and they need defining, that seems to contradict what the highest court in the state of Florida has already ruled, that the voters knew exactly what they were voting for. The Supreme Court justices was very clear on the language in our petition. And for them to now come back and disregard the Supreme Court justice opinion, but then want to hold on to our attorney's comments, to me, seems hypocritical.
Look, I certainly believe, Sheena, to your point, that that this is going to be a dogfight. I believe that folks have to be mobilized. They must be in Tallahassee, must go door to door and look those folks in the eye. And to your point, walk in there and say, here are the voting numbers from your district. Here are the voting numbers from your district. Here are the voting numbers from your district. And look them all in the eye and say, how in the hell are you going to try to go against the will of the people? And this is where thousands of people should be dropped on that state capitol to let them know that they cannot be trying to play games here. But again, because what the Republicans, what they fear, this is a voter suppression tactic. That's what this is. This is designed to frustrate. This is designed to keep folks, because they know if 1.4 million people are added to the rolls, Florida is now no longer Trump country. It's now a different state in 2020. It changes the dynamics of the 2020 election. That's why they're trying to get this passed.
Well, Roland, I want to say this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think they understand the game that they're playing right now. One of the issues that, like, first of all, they are fighting against their own constituents. When we went to Tallahassee and took 600 people, those were not all 600 Democrats,
right?
Registered returning citizens. These were conservative, also members that we have in our organization who would like to vote for Trump, who wanted to support DeSantis. But you know what? They're going to turn their own constituents against them because they're saying you're blocking me from the ballot box. They're impacting their own constituents. I don't think they understand that.
Oh, they do.
And so,
No. Let me be real clear. They do, because I'm showing you precedent. Republicans in Wyoming, I believe it was Wyoming, it totally ignored the voters on the issue of passing an ethics law. Republicans in Utah totally reversed the voters' will when it came to expansion of Medicaid. Republicans in Maine, the voters there had same-day voter registration. The Republicans in 2010, I believe, overturned that. The voters came back in 2012 and put it back on the ballot, and it passed by almost 70%, saying, who the hell told y'all to do it? The Republicans in Michigan right now are trying to mess around with the amendment that was passed when it came to the commission to draw lines. They are so they, trust me, they don't care. Even if Republican voters, this is about power. Final comment.
Right. So what I'm saying is, okay, that's the voters, but what I'm speaking of right now are the new reenfranchised voters that are registering as conservatives. They are actually fighting against their own people right now. So you have 1.4 million people that were impacted. As we know, African Americans disproportionately impacted, but we were only 33% of that number.
Yep.
There are a lot of more folks that look like that party than that looks like us. And right now they're fighting against themselves. That's how I feel.
So Roland,
they're making it partisan politics.
Yeah. So I think
by design,
I understand what you're saying, how we're approaching this, and I think there's a couple of things that might be slightly different. Because here in Florida, what we're looking at really is not a bunch of newly enfranchised progressives or not a bunch of newly enfranchised conservatives. What you're looking at is a bunch of newly enfranchised returning citizens that seeks to form a standalone constituency group.
Yep.
Right. And so we have brought people together from all walks of life, not to be leaning left or leaning right, but to lean straight forward into issues that impact people with felony convictions. And because of that, and because of the fact that we have been without the right to vote for so long, we got a brother that called me the other day and said, listen, if there is a race for a dog catcher, I'm going to vote.
That's right.
We have people now that are excited about voting, and what these politicians are underestimating is the will and the tenacity of these newly reenfranchised returning citizens. It's 1.4 million of us. They can't, listen, they could try as hard as they may, but in Florida, where we know racists are razor thin, there will be consequences to be had for toying with our newly won right.
And I'll just add this, Roland.
Yes.
Today, we just came off of Advocacy Day, and our organizers have been on the ground and have been calling the participants, and the participants leaving from Tallahassee understand that the power that they have been calling to the Capitol, call the legislators where the legislators are hitting us up. Can you please let them know to stop calling? We will not stop calling. We will not stop showing up at your doors. And so we have not just registered voters, we have empowered voters. We have educated them, and they're ready to fight.
All right, Sheena Meade, Desmond Meade, we appreciate it. Trust me, y'all gonna be in for a fight, and we'll be standing right there with you along the way.
Listen, we got the biggest dogs in the fight right now, Roland. 1.4 million of them. We ready.
All right.
If nothing else, we know how to fight.
As I always said, when it's time to swing, swing. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a great.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders, enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school uninterrupted. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities. through innovative solutions. The winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement their proposal. The deadline to apply is March 31st, 2019. Go to FGB.Life. That's right there, FGB.Life, for more information and to apply. Forward goes further in our community, and we certainly want to thank them for being a partner with Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.